family is asleep in their home. It's early morning. The sun hasn't even come up yet. But outside in the shadows, there's a man watching. He's been watching for weeks. He knows their routine, knows what time they wake up, what time they leave for work, even what time they let the dog out. And now, he's ready. He breaks in through the back door. The family wakes up, confused, panicked. They don't understand what's happening, and before they can react, he's standing there, calm, smiling, holding a gun. He tells them he just wants their money, just wants to steal their car, that if they cooperate, everything will be fine. But that's a lie, because he didn't come here to rob them. He came here for something else entirely. It's January 15, 1974, and the Otero family, Joseph, 38, his wife, Julie, 33, their daughter, Josephine, 11, and their son, Joseph Jr., 9, are about to become the first victims of the man who will later be known as the BTK killer, Dennis Rader. And in case you're wondering, no, this guy wasn't some drifter, some career criminal. He wasn't on the FBI's radar. He was just a normal guy, married, had a steady job, went to church. But behind closed doors, he had a secret. He had fantasies. Sick ones. Fantasies about breaking into homes, tying people up, controlling them, watching them die. And for years, those fantasies stayed in his head. But one day, that wasn't enough. So on that freezing morning in January, he picks his first victims. He forces the Oteros into the living room, binds their hands with rope, and tells them again, this is just a robbery. They believe him. They want to believe him. But then he puts a bag over Joseph Sr.'s head, tightens it, pulls the rope. Joseph struggles, thrashes, but it's no use. He suffocates right in front of his family. Next is Julie, then Joseph Jr., and finally, Josephine. Hey! Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Trust me, you don't want to miss what comes next on Talescape. But he doesn't kill her right away. He drags her down to the basement, makes her stand on a chair. He slips a noose around her neck, tied to a pipe above. And before she can beg, before she can even scream, he kicks the chair away. And he watches as she slowly chokes to death. And just before leaving, he takes pictures of her body. Then he walks out, gets in his car, and drives off like nothing happened. The crime scene is a disaster. The cops show up and see the absolute horror that just took place. But here's the thing. Wichita isn't used to crimes like this. They aren't dealing with some random burglary gone wrong. This is planned, methodical, and it makes no damn sense. But Rader, he loves that. A few months later, he decides he wants credit. Because in his mind, he's not just some killer, he's an artist. So he writes a letter detailing exactly what he did and sticks it inside a book at the local library. And the letter, it ends with 3 chilling words: bind them, torture them, kill them. And just like that, the BTK killer has a name. But he's not stopping, not even close. Wichita is in shock. 4 people murdered in their own home. No fingerprints, no witnesses, nothing. The cops have nothing, and whoever did this, he's not bragging about it. He's not calling in tips. He just vanishes. At least that's what everyone thinks, because what they don't know is that the killer is watching. He's reading every newspaper, listening to every radio report, waiting for someone, anyone, to connect the dots. And when no one does, that pisses him off. Dennis Rader wanted attention. He wanted fear. And when he didn't get it, he decided to kill again. April 4th, 1974, just 3 months after the Otero murders. Catherine Bright, 21 years old, comes home after running errands. She steps inside, drops her keys, and before she can even react, there he is. A man standing in her living room holding a gun. It's Rader. And here's what makes this one different. He didn't expect her to have company. Her brother Kevin had dropped her off and was planning to come back soon. Rader wasn't ready for that. But instead of panicking, he improvises. He forces both of them into a bedroom, ties them up, and tells them the same lie. I just want money. I just need a car. But Kevin, he's not buying it. Rader turns his back for 1 second, and Kevin somehow breaks free. He runs, dives through the door, sprints outside, bleeding, screaming for help. But Rader doesn't run. Instead, he turns back to Catherine, and this time, he doesn't have rope, doesn't have time to strangle her like he planned, so he stabs her, over and over, until she stops fighting, until she stops breathing. Then, he's gone. Kevin survives. He gives the cops a description. Says the guy was in his mid-20s, wore a stocking over his face, and spoke softly, almost politely. But it doesn't help because there's no way to track this guy down. No fingerprints, no records, no suspect list. Rader disappears again. For 3 years, he stays quiet. But don't get it twisted. He's not done, not even close. He's just waiting. Because Rader doesn't just kill randomly. No, he picks his targets carefully. He stalks them, watches them, studies their routines. He calls it project hunting. Each victim, a different project. And by 1977, he's ready for his next one. March 17, 1977. Rader breaks into a home in Wichita and waits. The woman who lives there, Shirley Vian, comes home with her kids, 3 little kids, ages 4, 6, and 8. And the moment she steps inside, Rader steps out. She barely has time to scream before he's got a gun to her head. He forces her into a bedroom, locks the kids in the bathroom, and then he does what BTK does. He strangles her, watches as she takes her last breath. Then he leaves, calm, quiet, like nothing ever happened. And the kids? The kids are still locked in the bathroom, alive. Because here's the thing. Dennis Rader wasn't just a murderer. He was a performer. He didn't kill everyone he saw. No, he had a script in his head, a fantasy. And if something didn't go exactly the way he imagined, he bailed. That's why those kids survived. They weren't part of his plan. But Rader still isn't getting the attention he wants. So 9 months later, in December 1977, he decides to change that. This time he picks up the phone. He calls the police himself and says 6 words that will haunt Wichita forever. You will find a homicide at. Then, he hangs up. The cops race to the address, and there in her home is Nancy Fox, 25 years old, dead, strangled. And right next to her body, a message written in her own lipstick. BTK. Now the city really knows his name. And Rader? He's loving this. He keeps writing letters to the police, to the newspapers, even directly to TV stations. He brags about his murders, taunts the cops, even gives details only the killer would know. But there's one detail he never gives them. His name. And so, just like before, the cops have nothing, and Rader, he's about to disappear again. For the next few years, Rader goes quiet. No more calls, no more letters. The cops aren't even sure if he's still alive. And Wichita? They start to relax. But what no one realizes is that Rader is still hunting. April 27, 1985. Maureen Hedge, 53 years old, is home alone when she hears a noise outside. She walks toward the window. And that's the last thing she ever does. What she doesn't know is that Dennis Rader has been watching her for weeks. He even parked his car at a church down the road so no one would see him. Then, dressed in full-on ninja mode, black clothes, gloves, a mask, he sneaks into her house and strangles her to death. But this time, he doesn't just leave her body there. No, he takes her with him. He loads Maureen's corpse into her own car and drives back to the church where he parked earlier. And inside, he poses her body. He takes off her clothes, ties her up, takes pictures, and when he's done, he dumps her in a ditch and goes home. Like nothing happened. And Wichita, they still don't know BTK is back. He lays low for another year. But on September 16th, 1986, he strikes again. This time, it's Vicki Wegerle, a 28-year-old mother. Rader knocks on her door, pretending to be a telephone repairman. She lets him in, thinking it's just a routine service call. But the second the door shuts, he pulls a gun, forces her into the bedroom, ties her up, and strangles her. Then he grabs her camera and takes pictures. And when her husband comes home, he finds Vicki dead on the floor. And BTK? He vanishes again. At this point, the cops have no idea these new murders are even connected to BTK. The Oteros, Catherine Bright, Shirley Vian, Nancy Fox, those were all years ago. And Rader, he's stopped writing letters. It's like he never existed. And for the next 5 years, nothing, not a single attack. Then in 1991, he kills again. Dolores Davis, 62 years old. Rader parks his car at a shopping center and walks miles through the woods to reach her house. He breaks in, strangles her, poses her, and then dumps her body under a bridge. And then he retires. Seriously. He just stops killing, because by now, he's got everything he ever wanted. A wife, kids, a good job as a compliance officer. He's active in his church. He's a respected member of the community. No one suspects a thing. For 13 years, BTK is nothing but an urban legend. A cold case, just another name in Wichita's history books. And then, in 2004, a local newspaper runs a piece about the 30-year anniversary of the Otero murders, and Rader sees it. And guess what? He cannot resist making a comeback. So he does something incredibly stupid. He sends a letter to the newspaper claiming responsibility for Vicki Wegerle's murder back in 1986. He even includes pictures that he took of her body, pictures that were never released to the public. And just like that, the police know BTK is back. They put out a statement, say they're reopening the case, that they're on his trail. And Rader, he loves this. For the next year, he starts sending more letters, more taunts. He leaves packages around Wichita with clues, word puzzles, and pieces of evidence from his old murders. He's having the time of his life. But then he makes one fatal mistake. He asks the cops a question. If I send you a floppy disk, can you trace it? Now at this point, the cops have been playing along, pretending they're totally stumped, so they lie. They tell him, nope, no way. A floppy disk is totally untraceable. And Rader, he believes them. So in February 2005, he mails a floppy disk to a local TV station, thinking he's outsmarted everyone. The cops immediately extract the metadata, and within minutes, they find a hidden file on the disk. A file last edited by Dennis Rader at a church. The same church where he was a council president. They run his name, match it to his car, pull his daughter's medical records, and boom. DNA matched to the crime scenes. BTK has been caught. February 25, 2005. Police swarm Rader as he's driving home for lunch. And when they pull him out of the car, guess what he says? I have some stories to tell. And oh boy, does he. He confesses to everything. Every murder, every letter, every sick little fantasy. He even tells them how he chose his victims. Just random people he saw at the grocery store or women he spotted on walks. That was it. That was all it took to end up on BTK's kill list. And when he finally stands in court, he describes every single murder in chilling detail. No emotion, no regret, just listing off his crimes like he's reading a damn grocery list. The judge gives him 10 consecutive life sentences, no parole, no chance of release. And to this day, Dennis Rader, one of the most brutal serial killers in history, is sitting in a Kansas prison cell, still alive, still breathing, still writing letters. Thanks for tuning in to Talescape. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories where ambition meets chaos and sometimes history.